Former farm boy turned brigadier general, Nebraska Congressman Don Bacon is about to tell us what it takes to keep us safe, both here and abroad. Our conversation starts right now. Welcome to Conversations. Just sit down and meet Congressman Don Bacon. He's never forgotten his farming background, as his legislative record attests. But what's especially impressive is his global perspective. He finished his career in the Air Force as a brigadier general, and that makes his international perspective especially valuable. I'm honored to have Congressman Don Bacon here join me today. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, thank you. Part of the reason I pointed out your farming background, along with your military career in the introduction, is because of the bipartisan legislation you introduced to protect U.S. farmland from foreign ownership. Brilliant. Can you share why this is a national security issue?
Well, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence right now that China is buying up farmland throughout the country, and in particular, around our strategic bases, like our bomber bases, our ICBM bases, maybe even STRATCOM and Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, we really don't have good data on this, so my bill tasks the federal government to study this and to report to Congress just how much farmland is China building, and are they buying this farmland near our military bases? And before you can ban or make policy, you got to have the data. And right now, we just don't have good data on what China is doing. And we need to task it out and figure out what is the problem.
Well, despite the president's efforts to de-escalate the war between Russia and Ukraine, we're seeing Russia get even more aggressive. What next steps do you think we should take?
Well, I agree with the president's pivot. I didn't agree with him up until now. I thought he was trying to be too even-handed between Russia, the invader, and Ukraine, the victim. But I see a pivot in the last couple of weeks. I'm grateful for that. If Russia prevails here, it will hurt our national security interests. I believe that China is watching what's going on here, how we respond, and that can have a higher impact on Taiwan. But also, if Russia prevails in Ukraine, they will very likely take Moldova next. I think that's a given. And I think Azerbaijan and Georgia would be under tremendous risk. And Joe Petraeus recently said he suspects that if we're not clear with our deterrence, that Russia will invade the Baltics, and just to test NATO's resolve. So I see this very dangerous, but a bully is not stopped while a bully keeps on bullying. Yeah. And so we need to ensure that Ukraine is given the weapons it needs. They're doing the fighting. They're defending their country. I support the president willingness to go after secondary sanctions. China, Iran, North Korea, others are propping up Russia's economy. And we need to hold those companies and those countries accountable for propping up Russia's economy. But the president's given them, basically 5 weeks or 50 days to acknowledge this problem, these other countries, and change their policy. It's given time to make some changes here. But I think 50 days may be too long, because every day Russia is bombing Ukrainian cities.
It's just unbelievable. Turning to another hot spot, the Middle East. You spent some of your military career in that part of the world. How big of a threat is radical Islam? And are we too complacent about our vulnerabilities here at home?
Well, it's clearly Iran is led by radical Islam on the Shia side. In fact, if you listen to their leaders, they look forward to a day where you have the apocalypse, and they can bring back what they call their 12th Imam. And so that's why they do a lot of things they do. They're very confrontational towards Israel and America. By the way, Iran, their Shia militias, their proxies, killed thousands of Americans, 609 alone in Iraq. Of course, we had the Marines at Khobar Towers, not Khobar Towers, at the Beirut barracks. We had, I think, 19 people killed at the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia. It just goes on and on. But we also have radical Sunni Islam, and that's what happened with Al-Qaeda. That's why we were attacked on 9/11, and that's still an issue all over the world. And you can see it in Europe right now, primarily. So we should be very cognizant of radical Islam, but also knowing we have very good Muslim citizens in our country. So we got to be discerning in how we go about this. But yes, it's a threat. And the biggest terrorist groups in the world are radical Islam.
Yeah.
The top 10 terrorists in the world right now are all motivated by radical Islam.
Let's take a moment to talk about military readiness. There have been some pretty high-ranking shakeups, including the abrupt dismissal of General Timothy Hawk.
Well, Joe Hawk is a friend of mine, so I'll give you that right up front. I knew him when he was a colonel and was a one-star general. He was groomed for darn near a decade to be the cyber command commander. Nobody has the background right now in the DoD like he had. And he was fired for no reason given. And that was 4 months ago, Ambassador, and we still don't have a commander at Cyber Command. We have an acting commander. And I think that's done damage to America's cyber defenses, cyber offensive capabilities. And literally, if you do the research, there's only one other general that had any cyber experience before they were general. Joe Hawk had cyber experience his whole career. And like I say, he was made for that job, and he was fired for no reason given, and it was wrong. But you can also look. We don't have a Navy chief right now. The Navy CNO was fired 4 months ago. That position's not been filled. And there's multiple examples of this. And what bothers me is the president and the Secretary of Defense, they have the legal right to fire or to hire who they want. That's the Constitution. So they may have the constitutional right, but it may not make it right. In other words, there's a level of decency we expect from our president and our Secretary of Defense on this. And to fire 7 different generals with no explanation or rationale, yes, it's their right to do so. But I think the American voters have a right to know why. It's our country, right? And I think Congress has a right to know why is this being done. And I think the individuals themselves who served 30 plus years, some going on nearly 40 years, had a right to know as well.